Hey there everybody, welcome to another brand new LP where we head back onto the Nintendo DS for another interesting horror outing in the sequel to Nanashi no Game, Nanashi no Game May. Now the icon May is actually I, so if you want to consider the Nameless Game I, we can go with that, but most of what we start out with here is stuff we are already familiar with, just sound settings, graphic brightness settings. And you may notice that there is a lot of kanji and hiragana. May make it seem like there's no translations, but I did have some assistance from another Something Awful goon who was nice enough to assist in translating this. He is translating all of this. And right off the bat, as with the first game, we are allowed to name our character. This time, I was still a bit on the fence. What would be a good horror game name? And really, especially with the fact that it's in Japanese, I had to get a little bit more assistance from Panzer Skank, but I decided on a name that I thought was pretty fitting. And, well, we'll see what that is in just a second. Sorry, it's still not my native tongue, so it's hard to spell, but that's right. We're going to be Davy yet again. Now, after we name our main character, we're also given an option to name our girlfriend, who I'm going to keep her name as Ren, and our best friend, whose name is Yuto, just to keep those in line with the story overall. Let's go ahead and get into that story. Right off the bat, we find ourselves back in what appears possibly to be the cursed game from the first title, though I'm not sure why it might still be in readily available access. But what might strike you immediately as we start is that we are roaming around with a party of two people who have to be named after our girlfriend and our best friend. Also, yes, this is the town of Verona from the first game. There are a little bit of differences, such as the inn seems to have some more going on with it, but most of it we don't need to care about. Though if you did want to learn about how to run, there's still this friendly NPC here to tell you about that. Really though, the only way to progress here is to talk to the old wizened man by the door here. He tells us that the Demon King wishes to cover the world in darkness, and that as we are heroes, it's up to us to go ahead and fight this evil. So I guess that's just what we're gonna do. Pretty unexpectedly, we find ourselves back at the Tenjin Famille, which you may recall was the apartment complex where Odaka lived, and where Odaka died. We get a little bit of backstory here, as the game takes place a little bit after the first game, but for the most part, this opening bit is going to be very familiar territory, not only visually, but story-wise. So, as we find ourselves back on that familiar floor, we are given the movement tutorial. Didn't need to translate it, as overall the movement in Nanashi no Game May is pretty much exactly the same as in the first game. There is one slight, albeit somewhat annoying difference, and that is in the fact that you can't quick turn anymore. If you happen to hold down a direction on the D-pad, such as left or right, and click on the sides of the screen, you will no longer be able to quick turn. Instead, left or right on the D-pad is now a strafing maneuver, which I don't understand the point of it, but maybe we can get some usage out of it later. Also, out of interest, we do see some of the original names on the doors here. The most notable one is Clive up there, but before we get into that, we can take a quick look at the TS screen. TS meaning twin screen, which is the pseudo DS. And it's pretty much the exact same as it was in the first game. We see that we have a game installed, we have mail, we can load our old save, but we don't really need to worry about that for right now. But yeah, I do find it interesting that there is one English name on the door over here. And from what I gathered from Ghost Car's LP, the name Clive was supposed to be a reference to horror writer Clive Barker. Seems he's got some possessed trash, but it's neither here nor there because, as we saw in the elevator text there, we are just here to see the Odaka apartment. And as of right now, we don't know how our character knows about the cursed game, but it just seems possibly common urban legend knowledge at this point. Now, we also don't know why he feels the need to investigate it. But quickly enough, we are given some insight as to why he might be at the Odaka apartment, as we hear that familiar game music from the cursed game playing, and we meet our good friend Yuto. It seems that we are falling a little bit asleep in class, while he himself is pretty much distracted by playing a game. So, well, it's probably not the most interesting class around. Still, Yuto is going to fill us in on some information that we already know, but might not be known to new players, which is that there's this supposed cursed game that will kill you even if you do beat it within 7 days, which is a little bit different than what we've experienced beforehand, but, well, Yuto says we really shouldn't be so naive and assume that this game was going to kill people. It's probably just to, get some buzz, get some atmosphere, get people buying the game. Though I guess it's only a pirated game, as he says it's just riddled with bugs. And thankfully, Yuto is nice enough to not send us this game, as we know what happens when that happens. But all our discussion and not paying attention has gotten the ire up of our professor. Yeah, I don't know if it's really a step forward or a step backwards in regards to some of the character models or portraits they use, but especially the professor, he has a very unique look about him. But he is very, very not pleased with the fact that we aren't paying attention. And he decides, if we are not going to pay attention, then we're going to get a little bit of a punishment. He's going to make us write a pretty complicated essay, I would say. Though it doesn't really give too much insight into just what this class might be. I don't think it's the same informatics class that that the characters from the first game were in. I need to keep in mind that even though we are playing as a Davy, we're not playing as the Davy. We are a completely new set of characters. It's just that there are some very similar settings. But as we have gotten our punishment, we do finally get to meet Ren, who is our girlfriend, and also one of the other named characters from the game. I don't know, or at least we don't know as of right now, whether or not there's any deeper meaning with the fact that both the two party members in the game are the same as our friends' names. Maybe we were given the option to name them in the game as well. It's a bit hard to say. Either way, it looks like there's some nice camaraderie-manship between all the characters here. Though we are still left very unsure as to why Davy has decided to go to the Odaka apartment. We can see that, as per what we were told very early on, the parents, Odaka's parents, decided not to clean up after their son's untimely death. So a lot of the interior here is very similar. Though for some reason we are not able to enter into the main living room area. But if you recall from the setup of the apartment from the first game, there is a bathroom we could probably check into. And even though the apartment is supposed to be empty and abandoned, there's that sound of running water. At least in some small way, there has been a little bit of cleanup here, but yeah, I wonder who could be using the bathroom. So, as we've gotten a game update, we find here in the inn our first item. Now, we don't know what these items are used for just yet, but they are very similar to the items that we had to collect from the first game, so they are pretty important to gather. Also, we find this colorless entity here. Now, even though it is denoted as having a question mark, all NPCs in the game have question marks, so it's not so much that we don't know who this cryptic fellow is, that's just the name NPCs are given. But, as he has mentioned that we are going to be dead soon, we also learned from Ren here that Yuto has been acting a little bit strange after we collected that item. And strange is a little bit of an understatement. Yep, we are now dead. At least our video game avatar is dead. Likewise, Ren is pretty much doomed as well. And we have no idea what changed Yuto's, I guess, emotional state. But, as we have traveled a little bit back in time yet again, we find that Yuto has not been at class for a couple of days. And if those of you that followed the LP of the first game might recall, this was a very similar thing that happened to Odaka. Now, as we are his friend and also happen to live right next door to him, we are going to go check on him for Ren here. And get chided yet again for not really paying close attention to one of our good friends. So with that, we are going to make a quick jaunt over to the student housing. And as Yuto does not feel the need to answer the door himself, we'll just go ahead and let ourselves in. Now, the student housing is pretty spacious, in my opinion, at least in comparison to what I've seen of most dorm living. I mean, it's not as palatial as the Odaka apartment, but it's by no means small, though most of it is kind of locked off to us. There are a few places we can look, though, such as in this left side room here. And it gives us a little look inside of our friend Yuto. I can't tell if maybe he is into arts and crafts in general, or possibly astronomy, or rocket engineering. It's a bit hard to say. Though I am a bit surprised at just the lack of interactivity for most of this room. It looks like you should be able to investigate or prod around in the computer or in the drawers, but nope, there's nothing really in that room. Instead, as we head into the living room, we get the game's usual means of propelling us around, and that is via the audio cues. We hear the somewhat distorted warbling of the cursed game. Though I did want to just give a quick scan over of the bachelor pad that is Yuto's residence. But Yuto's bedroom is seemingly empty, though there is some weird rustling coming from in the closet, I think. And with that, we find out just how Davy got a hold of that cursed game. So, as we head back to Nanto University, we decide to talk to both Professor Kagawa. I'm probably mispronouncing that, and I do apologize. We talked to the professor and Ren about just what we found at Yuto's apartment. And even though Ren is initially skeptical, the professor seems, I guess, a little bit more willing to to believe in this whole cursed game idea. And he is the one that fills us in on the information regarding the Odaka apartment, and that might be a good place to fill in some of the blanks and gather up some information regarding this cursed game. And with that interesting story mechanic, that storytelling method that they use there, we finally get an understanding of just why we are at the Odaka apartment and how we got our game, and I guess just why we are under a little bit of a deadline. Still not sure where the person that was in the bathroom might have gone to. They definitely didn't flush themselves down that backed-up toilet. But we now do have free reign to explore around the Odaka apartment. Though first we do have another returning feature from the first game, which is getting to read emails. Now, right off the bat, it's a very interesting email in that it is from our dead friend Yuto. Now, he didn't want us playing the game originally, but he says here, just in case that we ever do happen to start playing the cursed game, that there is a hidden command that we could use. And even though Yuto doesn't know of the command, he thinks it might be of use to us in the future. I mean, there is a good possibility that maybe after our journey in the first game through Odaka's apartment, maybe there is a new clue waiting for us in regards to the cursed game. If anything, it does give us an opportunity to look around at some stuff that may or may not have changed from the first game. There's still this body-shaped pillow here, but this large, intricate painting of a chicken has indeed changed from the first game. It's definitely gotten a graphic upgrade from the first game. Still pretty curious, though. I've gotten a few different inputs as to what the chicken might be. Maybe a zodiac symbol, something like that. But yeah, it's odd to me. No, this is a familiar scare from the first game. And it may make you think that everything is going to be pretty similar in regards to Odaka's apartment from the first game, but there are some very nice changes. Such as the slight change that occurs for the chicken painting if you re-enter Odaka's bedroom. Sadly, they seem to have cleaned up, or at least moved the animated garbage bags from the kitchen, and there's no longer a large amount of holy water. Instead, most of this apartment seems to be pretty calm. Though there still are a few annoying jump scares here and there in the game. Though they can be pretty easily telegraphed. But there is a small change in the entertainment room. It's very subtle. It's very slight. But it's very familiar. But the game decides to give us a little bit of a helping hand in case we don't know just where to go, with that very familiar cursed game music. Before we can fully follow it, though, we do have another email. And it's another helpful hint regarding that hidden command from Yuto. Now, the email is a little bit wordy, but it seems to have some bizarre lines from a poem. They don't mean much right now, but they will by the end of the video. And in this familiar back room, where we found Odaka's dead body, we find that, for some reason, the graffiti, the little drawings from Asahi, are gone for the most part. Also, we find what might possibly be Odaka's TS? Well, even if it's not, it has given us a second opportunity at life in the game. Though it does seem like Ren is not so lucky. Her character is still very much dead in the game. Though it also seems like Yuto is in a very similar state. Not really sure what happened to him, but there is a helpful note, or at least it would be a helpful note if it was legible at all. The good news is that the note we're finding here is pretty much the same information that we found on that command from the email from Yuto, so we don't really need to know it verbatim. Also, if we wanted to, we could talk to the NPC here, and they would tell us that for some reason, Yuto kind of ended up killing himself by flailing into a wall and being crushed by stones. But more importantly, all the townspeople of Verona are now gone, and considering that it is nighttime, maybe they're at the water festival at the lake. Though as we do head up to the lake, we find, well, all the water seems to have disappeared, all that life-giving fluid. There is this mysterious set of stairs leading under the lake, though, and we do find someone living down here. Before we talk to them, though, there is another interesting collectible here, and it's our first cursed cartridge. Now, the cursed cartridges aren't necessary, but I will be trying to collect as many as I can. Still, just who is this man waiting down here? But it's Odaka. Now, this especially makes sense considering that Odaka was drowned in the lake in the first game, but he seems a little bit off, especially in regards to the fact that he has to fulfill a promise, but before he can really indulge us in conversation, he is going to need a password. And this is that hidden command that Yuto was mentioning in his emails. Now, we did get another slight hint, or we would have, from the NPC up at the up before the stairs of the lake. He was basically going to tell us that it's not the overall message that's important, it's only the beginnings. And along with the notes and everything like that, we have to spell out this special password, which in Japanese is kuroshite, but put more simply in English, it's kill. Or kill me.